Hello, welcome back to our channel. I'm Kit and this is Bear. Or welcome to our channel. We are on chapter 14 of the story of Lawrence. And Bear has nothing to do with the video, as we all know. But he likes to be present, don't you? You do. Okay, say hello. Now say goodbye. Now walk away. Okay, you can come back. Alright. So, we are on chapter 14, and it's the day of the coronation. It was the day of the coronation. Kurt and I had 55 guards alone in the coronation area of the palace, along with all of us. We stood to the side awaiting Emmett and the priestesses. Emmett had come into the sanctuary, and making his way over to me, we all got a shock as an arrow came from the side of the room towards Emmett. He turned sharply and caught the arrow as the guard near the one with the bow was seized. They grabbed the man by both arms, taking the bow from him. "Cease," Emmett called, as he turned, moving to the guards and the man. A lot of people screamed and stood up. Also, his sons Carradine, Patrick, and Matthias moved to the man. I and Kirk followed Emmett as he moved up to the man and holding the arrow out to him. "Let him go," Emmett called to them. "Father, are you insane?" Carradine asked with a look of shock to Emmett. "Silence," Emmett said sternly. "Let him go." He then repeated to the guards, and the guards did as Emmett said. He handed the arrow to the man. He also stood there in shock. "You're upset, and I understand this. However, trying to take my life will not change a thing. I will be your high priest. My word is decree. Now is there need for you to be restrained?" "Sir," he said to him. "Sir, this is just not right," he said to Emmett. "Tell me what is not right. You do not answer to the priestess." "Sire, you answer to me. Take your seat and do not attempt to challenge on me again this day," he told him. We watched as the man went to one knee and bowed his head. "Forgive me, sire," he said as Emmett, really not sure what to say or even think, and just returned to the altar where I was standing. The music started, and we all watched as Lewis, Scott, Emmett moved into the sanctuary. The priestesses were all in very lovely gowns of different colors. They moved to the front where the altar was, and the giver of the word of Odin, known as the Father. He was called the Father, for it is he who is responsible for the decrees of Odin. He is not above the high priest, yet assists the high priest. He spends all his time in service to Odin. As they approached the altar, "Welcome, kings, queens, counts, countesses, citizens of the throne. We gather here in Atlantis this day to celebrate the full rotation of the millennium," the Father said, then went to one knee before Lewis. Lewis stepped forward, motioning the Father to rise, then took the scepter from its holding at the altar. As he took it in hand, the gem at the top glowed red. You could hear the ohs and the ahs from those gathered. He turned and faced everyone. As all can see, the glow of the eye of Odin glows red. 'Tis indicates my term of service to you has come to an end. It is now time to entrust the throne and its people to another. I do this with great pride. My youngest son, Louis Emmett Humberg, took the challenge of the millennium, and he ventured up Odin's mountain and retrieved the scepter, bringing it back to me. It glows now what it did when Emmett returned it to me. It indicates of the millennium into rotation. Louis said. Everyone clapped. It has now come time to return the scepter to him and release the throne and the high priest title to anew. Is there any here who object to the release of the throne to the executive prince, Louis Emmett Humberg? If so, this would be the time to speak, the father said. A female in the gathering stood up. Father, it is not actually an objection, more so a concern. A lot of us have, she said sincerely. My lady, what would that concern be? Louis asked, as if we all did not already know. Taking a deep breath, I remained silent and listened. Sire, Your Excellency, I would never question your judgment. However, sire, you never placed a courtesan to rule over us. All your priestesses have been free. Yet Prince Emmett has not only not one, yet two, as he takes the rule of the throne. Are we to follow and answer to Thornton's now? She asked. My lady, I understand your concern. I never had the opportunity to have a courtesan as a priestess. All my father's kings had daughters for such. As you all know, the priestesses need not be free to rule. My son will take an oath and a commitment to you for his courtesans, Louis said. The gathering of the people then became very noisy. Everyone started to talk among themselves. I looked from Scott to the others, then to the people as I heard Juanita speak up and step out of line. Sire, may I speak? She asked. Louis and the father both nodded to her. She placed her hand up to the crowd. My people, citizens of Estastar, please, I beseech you, settle down. A lot of you know me. You know I have always held your best in interest high. We are not asking you to follow and obey blindly to one not of free status. We are, however, asking you to do so fairly. In our society, not all who obtain a rose brand had been found in decree default, nor have they treasoned against the throne. And if they had, I can promise you they would not be placed as your priestesses. Many are born into it and also wrongly awarded it. Honor and respect are two things not taken lightly. As with any honor must be shown and respect earned. No, do not follow blindly, yet allow the honor shown and the respect earned by both my sisters. Our high priest said, Emmett will make a commitment to you for them. Give them a chance. Give us all a chance. For you do not serve us, yet we serve you. She smiled to them and stepped back into line. You could hear clapping began And then again all was silent. "Is there any others who wish to speak?" the father asked, pausing for a few moments. "If so, do it now, or forever be silent." No one said a word. Not even a sound was heard. "Very well," the father said and motioned to Louis. "Sire." "My people, I give to you this day the Millennium High Priest, your High Priest," he said, holding the scepter to Emmett. Emmett took hold of the scepter with his father. The eye glowed a beautiful violet color. "Louis Emmett Humberg, do you accept the responsibilities, the rule in fair and honest, following uphold the decrees of not only Esthar, yet also Odin? Do you solemnly swear before your father and all here to lead and guide your people with liberty and equality, taking their best interest and placing it before your own?" The father said. "With my very life, Father. I, Executive Prince Admiral Louis Emmett Humberg, accept and do solemnly swear to guide, lead as fairly as Odin will allow," Emmett said. "Sire," the father said, "Emmett, my son, it gives me great joy and pleasure to release to you Odin's scepter, and with it his throne." He let go of the gem. When he let go, the gem glowed blue. Louis then went to one knee before Emmett. "I acknowledge you as my high priest, your excellency." As Louis knelt to his son, we all then went to one knee with our heads bowed. "Thank you, Father," he said and held the scepter up. "Rise, my people, please." He then placed it to the floor. "Sire, would you please present your people with their priestesses?" the father said. "Wait, please. I have something I must say and do," Partina said. Everyone was silent, and Partina turned and walked to Juanita. Taking her hand, she pulled her from where she was third in line. "Juanita, remember when we were younger and you said I could have Emmett Humberg, that you were getting the high priest?" she asked her. "Yes, Partina," she replied, confused. "Then I returned, said you could have the high priest. I wanted Emmett. Well, I got him," she said and turned to the gathering. "My people, as much as I love you, as much as I will hold you above even my own concerns, I have nothing to really truly offer you besides my dedication to you, my love for Emmett, and the bearing of his children for the high priest. Nothing more than that. Princess Juanita has been training to be your high priestess since she could walk. She has studied to be the high priestess that I am about ready to be made." She then turned back to Juanita and placed her beside Emmett, where she should have stepped up to. "Juanita, you can have the high priest. I still just want Emmett." She then stepped back in line where Juanita should have been. Everyone was silent. I do believe not a single person knew what to say, and Juanita was crying. Emmett turned to the gathering, and he was always full of confidence and shit. He smiled. "I feel as if I was just given away," he said with a chuckle. The gathering started to laugh. "My people, I, Louis Emmett Humberg, your high priest, present to you your high priestess, Princess Juanita Marana. Wait a minute, that's wrong. Princess Juanita Marina Leon Humberg. My priestesses, would you now plead, make your commitment to our people? Vivian had handed Juanita a handkerchief. She wiped her eyes and cleared her throat. My high priest, actually, you were given away a long, long time ago, and now you have been given back. As she said that, you heard more laughter. My people, when I was very young, I had my commitment written out, and I practiced it every day. Then after Emmett climbed the mountain and returned with the scepter, then I threw it away, for he had his high priestess, and it was Partina. She said and laughed. So you will have to settle with this. I will do my best and strive to guide and lead you in good times as well as in bad. I promise to you and do solemnly swear to keep your best interest in heart, as I always have. I will guide and lead my sisters, your priestesses, to do the same, to hold you all above our own cares. She said and bowed to them. The gathering clapped as I think I went a little too far. The gathering clapped as the father took the step before them. My high priest, I ask you at this time to make your commitment to your people for your courtesans and present to them their priestesses. The father said, my people, my commitment to you for any and all my courtesans is this: if they fail you in any way, shape, or form, they shall be then destroyed. I ask you to give them a chance. If at any time they displease you, or that you feel they have wronged you, you need only come and speak to me, or your high priestess, and we will solve whatever it shall be. I present to you, in ranking order, your high priestesses. In ranking order, your high priest and your priestesses: Juanita, Partina, Elizabeth, Stockard, Charisma, Pamela, Bethann, and I, your high priest. As Emmett said this, they all bowed with Juanita to the gathering. Everyone, it seems, calmed down, and the sanctuary filled with joy instead of sorrow. That was there. Sire and your highnesses, would you all honor us with meeting us in the ballroom of the great hall of Valhalla? Lewis said. We then moved back into the constellation room. As we entered, Emmett looked to Partina and Juanita. The next time either one of you decide to change something in front of all Estastar, please inform me of it beforehand. Emmett laughed. My love, I am innocent to it. Juanita laughed. Lewis came up behind Emmett and slapped him on the back. Welcome to the priesthood, my son. He laughed with a bright smile. Emmett put his arm around his father's shoulder. Father, you're evil, pure evil, he laughed. Emmett sent the priestesses Lewis had looked to Partina. Partina, linger with us for a moment, please. Of course, sire, she said, and remained standing with Emmett. As they all had left, he looked to Emmett and Partina. When I am wrong, I admit I am wrong. I owe both of you an apology. Partina, you showed great care and courage this day, to not only our people, yet also to me. Thank you. Emmett is very blessed with having you. Accept my apologies, please. Lewis said, Sire, as I told our people, all I ever wanted was Emmett. I love him very much. I love him more than life itself, sire, she said with a tear in her eye. If he was a peasant, I could love him no more or less than I do. She smiled, and Emmett took her into his arms and kissed her. Father, you once told me not to see with my eyes. Sometime one has to, he told him. Yes, Emmett, sometimes. However, remember, you must always do what is best for our people. And it may not always be what you truly want. I moved about the area and waited for Emmett and the others to be ready to move into the great hall. As the priestesses returned, we moved into the great hall, and a shock we all got, for all the tables and chairs, even the tables with the food on them, were all floating in the air. I am just as strong as you are. You cannot defeat me, we heard Patricia call out. Barbara was standing over to the side. She seemed to be in as much shock as we all were. When you go up against me, you'll lose, Azrael replied to her. Their voices sounded older than what they were. Stockard went quickly over to Patricia. Charisma went over to Azrael. I and Emmett placed our hands up in the air and motioned the furniture back to the floor. We watched as Charisma grabbed Azrael. She went flying backwards, sliding across the floor. As Stockard grabbed Elizabeth, she also was thrown back from her. They approached the girls again, and each time they were sent backwards. Emmett looked to Juanita as he nodded to her. She moved over to the girls. She did not move to touch them, yet stood between them. Calm this down, she said slowly to them. They both looked to her. As Emmett and I set the table back down, he moved up beside Juanita and the two girls, went to one knee before Emmett and Juanita. You both will go and confine yourselves to your quarters, Emmett ordered, sternly and controlling. Azrael stood and looked to her father. Yes, father, forgive me, Azrael said. She then turned and walked out of the area. She started it. Patricia started to protest. You need to follow your sister's example, Emmett informed her. Now silence. Go to your quarters. She walked past Elizabeth. When she did, Elizabeth harshly took her arm, turned her to face her. How dare you act like this on this day, she said with anger towards her. Patricia pulled away from her and left the area. Partina started to also leave, going after the girls. Partina, no, come to me, he called to her. I must go and speak to Azrael, she said. Partina, you will let her be and remain with our people. Our daughters will be just fine, he said. He then looked to Stockard and Charisma, who were both still on the floor. You are priestesses. The both of you get up, he said sternly. They both stood and moved over to him. He then nodded to me. and I motioned for the guards to open the doors so those that awaited outside could enter and celebration could continue. Chapter 15. At the last month of the millennium, a notice was sent out for those of Exander to petition to follow the king's legacy, which those that felt they would qualify to guide the kingdoms would send in petitions with why they felt they would be the best for the kingdoms and their choices. Emmett and Lewis had together looked over each petition and narrowed over 65 petitions down to 7. No one really knew who the new kings would be. It was the first day of the second week of the first month of the new millennium. Those interested in the rotation of the kings would gather in the meeting room of Valhalla. Emmett with his father and the kings by his side stood before all. Welcome to the rotation of the kings. This day I will present to you the new kings of the millennium, those that will continue the king's legacy. As my father's kings joined him in the climb up to Asgard, Emmett said to the people. There was only 6 kings standing with Lewis as Emmett continued his speech. Each king holds in their hand the rights to their kingdom to entrust to a new. My father and I, through great care and consideration, have selected for you your new kings. As I call your name, please come forth and receive your kingdom rights from its previous king. You will have until the end of the full year cycle to learn from them. I urge you to do so, for once they rescind up the Lord's mountain, you no longer have their help. So please pay close attention to their teachings while they remain with us, just as I have done with my father. Emmett had said. All was silent as they listened to what Emmett had to say. Come now, starting with the home kingdom of Atlantis. King John Allen Benatardo, he called, as King Leon stood and awaited the new king to approach. Everyone cheered as the King Benatardo moved from the crowd up to King Leon. They shook hands, and a rolled scroll was handed over to the other. They then sat together at one side. Each king was seated to the left of Emmett, and Lewis beside each king was a vacant chair. Our next kingdom, the kingdom Dikion, King Leo Descartes, Servius, he called, and everyone again cheered as King Servius came forth and to King Lawson. They shook hands, and he was handed the scroll as the others were. He too then took his seat beside the previous king. Our next kingdom, the kingdom of Rome, he called out. King Darrell Austin Quantius. Again the people cheered as Queen Quantius came forth and King Austin stood, presenting to him the kingdom scroll. And he took his seat, and Emmett continued. Our next kingdom, the kingdom of Kakan, King Richard Delian Numerios. Again the people cheered, and as King Numerios moved before King Carmen and received the scroll, they both said. Then came the shock of my life. Our next kingdom, the kingdom of Exander. As the kingdom of Exander has no previous king, my father, Louis Humberg, will assist the rotation king. King Isaac Louis de Mera. I blinked, and the people cheered. I almost thought I didn't hear him right until I saw my father stand and move to Louis. I stood there, in more than disbelief. My father, a king, not only a king, yet the king of Exander, the one kingdom of all the garden where most of the trouble starts and comes out of. What was my father thinking? I just stood stunned. From then on out, as Emmett continued, our next kingdom, the kingdom of Sudan, King Douglas Lee Princeton. As the same occurred as before, the people cheered, and he took the scroll from King Jewel and took his seat. Our last and final kingdom, the kingdom within the Sultan, the kingdom of Brazil. King Richard David Duncan. King Duncan stood, and the people cheered, and he moved to receive the scroll from King Jameson and sat with the others. My people, I give to you the kings of the Sultan, he called, and they all stood and bowed as the people stood and cheered. And after was the celebration of the kings, and I pulled Emmett to the side. My father, Exander, Emmett? I said, looking to him, and he started to laugh. What is the miss, Law? My lord, your father is very qualified for the position, and wished it. So my father and I felt he would be the best choice, Emmett said. I am not relocating to Exander. Or are you insisting I do? I asked, thinking that he was sending me along with my father, as the sons of the kings are the officers of the king's circle. Law, you are my advisor. Why would I send you to Exander? He asked me. That was my next question, as to what I did wrong. I told him. Your father petitioned for the position, and father and I believe he deserves it. Do you think not? He said as my father came up behind us, placing his hand on my shoulder and on Emmett's. I turned to look to him. Congratulations, father. Or should I say, your highness, sire. I smiled. You're upset, I can tell. He informed me. Father, I do not wish to leave Emmett's side, I explained to him. Stuart, I would not hear of you leaving the side of our high priest, my son. Besides, I have Lawrence. And Stephen, I do want to ask you, keep Isaac here to finish classes. He is upset, for if we relocate, he is taken away from Juanita and Patricia. He laughed. I will get a cottage, and he can remain with me until class is complete. I told my father. Nonsense, Emmett spoke up. Father and I both looked at Emmett. What? After father rescinds up the Lord's mountain, we transfer to Valhalla. There is enough room for him there. There is no need for you to get a cottage, he informed me. I laughed and looked back to my father. I guess we will be living at Valhalla, I told my father. Thank you, sire, my father said. Sire, Emmett questioned. Do not even that, no matter what it is, still, Emmett. We all laughed and went to join the celebration of the kings. Emmett likes to stutter when he gets too upset. My father, mother, and all, with the exceptions of Isaac, started out the next day for Exander. Lewis had went with him to help him get settled in. Isaac moved into Devar with me. It had been about a month, and Partina and Stockard were going to perform at the East Tavern with Mike and Danny and Patsy's. So we were all at the East Tavern. It had been between performance that the situation occurred. You're a stupid girl. You know nothing at all. We heard a loud male's voice, and followed by the sound of a strike and a cry of a female. Then there was the sound of a whip. Partina and Juanita moved over to us, and Juanita looked to the way of the male. Do something. The young girl has done nothing wrong, Juanita had said. The girl belongs to the male, Juanita. What can I do? What do you propose I do? He asked as the male continued to strike the young girl, as she moved to the wall and curled up. She is no more than a child, Partina said. Emmett looked to me and stood, moving over to the man. I moved with him as we approached. Emmett took a hold of the man's wrist that held the whip and stopped him from striking the girl. As Mike and Danny saw Emmett, they came off the stage. The man jerked his arm from Emmett's as Emmett took the whip from him. Juanita and Partina, along with Stockard, moved over to the young girl. What is the meaning of this? You dare to interfere with the discipline of my Dinah, the man said to Emmett. Emmett handed me the whip. I took it. He then motioned to Mike and Danny to return to the stage, and the owner of the tavern to remain behind his bar, and he smiled to the man, holding out a diamond coin to him. No, I am not interfering in your discipline of your Dinah. I am purchasing her from you. What do you say? 1 diamond? For a stupid girl. Seems you come out ahead, sir. Once you find out she is unable to learn, you will wish me to take her back, the man said. Just the same, you wish to take the coin and give me the girl, Emmett said to him, and he took the coin. Thank you, Emmett then said and turned, nodding to the priestesses, and we moved back to the table. I watched as the man shook his head, blinked a couple times, and then left. I chuckled and looked to the young girl Emmett now spoke to. What is your name? He asked her. Tamaria, master, she said meekly, stuttering. Are you out of classes, Tamaria? Partina asked her. No, mistress, Adina is in 15th level. She replied the same way. How many times have you repeated that level? Juanita asked. Never, mistress, she said. The girl spoke very sweetly and looked to have been equally abused. Emmett listened. Then, as they spoke with her, after the performance, we all returned home. Emmett had a way with the people. They looked up to him, or else he seen to it they had no choice yet to look up to him. Chapter 16. I had entered into Emmett's office and moved to the bar to fix me a drink. and set it down on the sofa. He was working at his desk. The girl I purchased last night is branded with the Rose brand. She told me she has always had it. Stupid question here. However, do Vikings actually Rose brand children? I know there is no decree stating, as of yet, that is, that they may not. However, the Rose brand is reserved for those who in which go against decree and is a permanent punishment. They may never be set free. Why then brand a child with such? He said, looking to me with great concern. Commonly you brand a thwarted child with that of the brand of the mother obtains, I told him. Yet that is not a decree, or have I missed something in here? He said, holding up the decree book. No, you have not missed anything. It is not by decree, yet by the practice of the Vikings, I told him. Well, I do not like it, he had said when his father came into the office. You do not like what, my son? Louis asked as he entered. Emmett looked up to his father and stood. Welcome home, father. How is all in Exander? He asked. All is good. And I seemed to be, in Isaac's way, more than assisting him. So I returned home to continue with you. Law, your father and mother send their love. He then said, Thank you, sire, I replied. He looked back to Emmett. Now, what are you not happy with? Louis asked. The fact that our people are placing rose brands on children, Emmett said. Innocent children that have done no wrong. Why? Emmett asked. Son, that is just the way it has been for millennium after millennium. I am sure it is not personal, he explained. Yes, father, I understand it is not personal. However, by decree, that brand and the male brand is reserved for those that go against decree. It is a penalty. Those children have done no wrong. They are not even able to do any wrong. I feel it is wrong to punish someone before they even go against the decree. Emmett said, very concerned, it would seem. Emmett, there is no decree that prevents them from doing so. If you feel so strong about it, then do something about it, he told him. I make a decree stating, he started to say when Louis spoke up. Before you start creating decrees, my son, make sure you choose your words carefully. And when doing so, you must hold the scepter. And if the eye remains the violet glow, then you know you have done what is favorable to Odin. Yet if it glows red, then you will know it is in disfavor to him, and shall not be placed upon our people. Louis explained more. Emmett blinked and looked to his father. Are you sure that is all I need to do? Emmett asked. Emmett, do you feel so strongly on this matter? His father asked. Yes, he simply answered. Then let's go to the sanctuary, Louis said and stood. I remained where I sat, listening and watching the two high priests. The first year of the first term of the high priest was special. For 12 following months, the Sultan has two high priests. Louis looked back to me as they were headed out. Law, are you joining us? He asked. Sire, I do not think I would be permitted to, as it would be the affair of the high priest, I replied respectfully. Louis started to laugh, and a bright smile was seen on his face. Law, you and Emmett have so much to learn. As Emmett is now our high priest, and he has announced you as his assessor, you are permitted anywhere he goes, and to stand beside him in everything he does. Lewis said, more so informing me. That surprised me, and I looked at Emmett, standing. You remain out of my bath area and my chambers. Got it? He laughed. I do not wish to be in either with you. Lewis started to laugh as well, as I stepped beside them. He placed his arm around the two of us and guided us out of the office. Come, you two. You still act as if you're in classes, he said with a laugh in his voice, and we moved out and down to the sanctuary where the sector was kept. Emmett stepped before it and took it in hand. As this day forth, no child under the age of 18 may possess a brand, be it rose, lily, or dingo, until the day comes he or she willfully goes against decree. He said, and the eye of Odin on the sector remained clear. Emmett and I looked to it, and then to Lewis. Father, nothing changed. It is not even glowing for my reign. Emmett said, again concern heard in his voice. No, it is listening. Continue with the forfeiture. To the decree, Emmett. If by chance the one in default shall receive a brand, he or she themselves. He then said, and the eye of Odin glowed a strange color. We both looked to Lewis. Father, Emmett questioned, your words are not plain enough, or the forfeiture is not what is wished. Lewis explained. Emmett seemed to be in great thought, and then spoke again. If a child is branded before the child has a chance to go against the decree, then the one that ordered the brand of the child shall serve life as Thornton-see. Again the color remained the same. Emmett looked to his father. Emmett, how serious are you making this said decree? Think about it. Something is wrong with the way you are speaking it, Lewis said. Again, Emmett thought, and looked to the eye, and spoke. As this day forth, no child under the age of 18 may possess a brand, be it rose, lily, or dingo. Fault to this degree results in treason upon the throne, and a brand he or she shall be rewarded. He then said, and the eye of Odin glowed the violet color. As you have said, and it has, as you see, found favorable by Odin, Lewis said with great pride in his voice. Furthermore, no Thornton child, be it free or otherwise, under the age of 18, may be separated from their mother, unless it be a result of forfeiture. Fault to this decree results in a term of service. Emmett called out, and the glow remained as so. Emmett then replaced the sector back to where it was rested. Now, my son, you need to have Partina make a revision of the decree and send out to the journals of Estastar to be made public, also to the Vikings lodges, Lewis told him. The end of the year came fast, and it came the day to make the journey to the Lord's mountain and say farewell to the high priest and the priestesses, along with the kings and queens. It was a joyful time, yet also a sad one, for we would not be seeing them again, as they would never again be permitted off the mountain of Odin. The following day, things were being moved into Valhalla. It seemed very odd stepping into the throne room and seeing Emmett sit behind the desk, and his father nowhere in sight. As he and I never talked about it, I know it was awkward for him for quite a long time. The first year the millennium was over, and Emmett was still alive. My short goal was complete. Now I only had 891 more years to go to keep this man safe. Okay, this is where we end the story of Lawrence, because it is not finished. However, that's as far as it was written. So, we're going to end this video. And Lawrence's story is 7 videos long. Please return for the next story of Patsy and Danny Lee. Patsy and Danny's story has a complete ending. It is my favorite story, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. There are parts, I will tell you, in it that'll make you laugh. If you get to know the characters, it'll make you laugh, it'll make you cry, and it'll make you mad. If you want clarification on anything that you have heard, and you have questions or comments, please leave me a comment in the comment area, and I will make a video and explain whatever questions you do have. We bid you farewell, and until we meet again, the Lord be with you. Bye-bye.